So it's definitely safe to say at this point, Castlevania is the greatest video game adaptation ever, right? No debate. And so with that, Konami, PlayStation, where's an announcement for another game? What are you doing?
I need it now!
Hello, 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 and welcome to my safe haven! I don't know I don't know what that was, but anyway, yes. So thank you guys for joining me. If you couldn't hear me because of the opera sounds I was making, I said welcome to my safe haven. You have joined me for another review on the Black Gay Comic Geek channel. Thank you so much for joining me. But first and foremost, before we jump into the review, if you like everything that you see and everything that I'm talking about, if you could do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button, it'll really help for the YouTube algorithm and getting this video out there. So please do me that favor. So yeah, we are here to talk about Castlevania Season 4. If you have not watched Castlevania, I'm not going to really talk that much about spoilers because, I mean, it just came out. But I will maybe talk about a little bit of things that won't fully spoil it. But we'll get into that later on. But yeah, as I said in my opener, Castlevania is a Netflix animated series and is based off the video game Castlevania. And I believe the first season came out in 2017, 2018. I don't remember when the first season came out, but the first season was only 4 episodes and it was so popular and so good. Now here we are in season 4, but the unfortunate situation is season 4 is the last season of Castlevania. Damn, that sucks, because I would love to see another season. But Castlevania follows the story of Trevor Belmont, the last of the Belmont clan, a family of monster hunters, as he is fighting the hordes of Dracula and vampires and demons and witches and monsters and everything like that. But it turns out he isn't fighting these battles alone. He's joined by Dracula's half-human, half-vampire son, a Dampier, Alucard, and a witch elemental mage called a Speaker named Sypha. And this season picks up pretty much right where season 3 left off. And yeah, man, like I said in my opener, like this show has just been awesome every single season. And just the animation for this show is just so freaking gorgeous. This show was made by Powerhouse Animation Studios. They also did The Blood of Zeus, which is currently on Netflix. And they also did Seis Manos. I didn't see Seis Manos. I think that's on Netflix, but I did hear a lot of good things about it. So I probably should go back and check that out later on sometime when I have time. But after this, like, I can't wait to find out what Powerhouse Animation Studios does next, because their stuff just continues to prove to be super gorgeous. And then in the way the fight choreography was laid out in this animation, like the way the fight sequences were laid out in this season, this is exactly what I wanted from Yasuke. Maybe Powerhouse Animation Studios should have did the animation for Yasuke, because at least the animation would have been much more beautiful than what I got in Yasuke. Now, that's not to say Yasuke wasn't good, but like the fighting was nowhere near as epic as it was in Castlevania. And with this being Castlevania and fighting monsters and vampires and things like that, this show has everything that I say that I love in my fantasy: blood, sex, gore, and magic. Yes, with a K. And even outside of that, like, I'm definitely the audience for this type of property, because this show deals with things that were originally my first love. Like, I talk about how, you know, I always talk about superheroes and comic books and everything like that, but I've mentioned before, I think I've mentioned this before on like one of my live Q&As, but the way I got into superheroes and things like that was because of my love for horror movies. And part of my original love for horror movies was my love for vampires. I've always been fascinated, intrigued, and loved the idea and concept of vampires. That's part of the reason why I got into Buffy the Vampire Slayer in the first place, because it had vampire in the title. So I was like, from the 1992 movie, I was like, what is this? I'm definitely watching this. But movies like The Lost Boys, Interview with the Vampire, I've always just loved vampire lore and movies. And then also werewolves and witches. Like me, even though I love superheroes and things like that, I'm way more of a supernatural type of person. That's the genre I feel myself going back to more times than not. And that's also why I really love a character like, say, Doctor Strange in the Marvel Comics universe, because he is a magic-based character. And so while I definitely could have used more magic on this show and a little bit more sex, preferably gay sex, But still, I was here for all of this show. Like, I loved everything about this season. And the thing about this season that worked for me, also because of all the buildup, like this is season 4, so you had 3 seasons worth of buildup. Like, even though this season was a whole lot of action, I feel like every single episode and every single moment, it was just fighting, more so than the other seasons. But I was here for all of it because, A, like I said, the animation and the fight choreography just looked so great. But because of all the character work that you got from all the previous moments, like this was like the Avengers Infinity War / Endgame of Castlevania. I would say more so the Avengers Endgame of Castlevania, where it was just a bunch of payoff that you got from the buildup, but that payoff meant nothing without the 3 seasons of buildup. And so yeah, so this season starts, again, I'm not going to get fully into spoilers, but I will reveal some stuff. Like, this season starts with Sypha and Trevor basically just going around the city of Wallachia, or I think that's the city. Is that the city or the country? But they're going through Wallachia. They're basically taking out vampires and monsters because they're trying to bring and resurrect Dracula back from the dead. They're now fighting his disciples to try to bring him back. And so every time you turn around, Sypha and Trevor are just taking out a new faction of vampires trying to bring back Dracula. And the character of Alucard essentially went back to being a hermit after being betrayed in last season by his boyfriend and girlfriend, the brother-sister duo who tried to kill him, and then he put their dead bodies in front of his castle as a warning. But there's a nearby village that requests his services to help them with a monster problem, and so he jokes that he's basically becoming like Trevor Belmont. And so it also shows that those characters have had an impact on him, because prior to meeting them, he probably would have just ignored this village and didn't help them. And so this show just picks up on him helping them, and then Trevor and Sypha dealing with Dracula. And then of course you deal with Isaac. Then you're also dealing with Hector as he's navigating everything that's happening with Carnilla, as Carnilla is essentially wanting to wipe out all of humanity and rule the world and use humanity as nothing but blood banks. And then you're also dealing with Isaac's storyline and how he's essentially evolving as a character, as he originally wanted to wipe out all of humanity as well, because he wanted revenge for the death of his master. And so I do feel like the most that the show kind of took a back seat to the action was the storyline between Isaac, Hector, Carnilla. But even that was still heavily laid with action, and I was here for all of that. And yeah, I feel like there's not a whole lot to say without fully getting into spoilers, because again, I feel like most of this season was mostly action-based, with story beats interspersed in there, but every time you saw Trevor and Sypha, they were fighting. And then you deal with Alucard, he's dealing with a bunch of monsters protecting villagers, so then he's also fighting. And then eventually, at a certain point, Isaac starts fighting, and oh my god, that fight between Isaac, and I'm not gonna say who, but that fight was one of the most epic animated fights I've ever seen in an animated series. Now, it wasn't the most epic. That wasn't my favorite fight. I would say that was my second favorite fight of the season. Actually, you know what? This moment I will spoil. So spoilers for the end of Castlevania. But there was a moment in the very last episode, like I feel like those last 2 episodes were like the peak of the show. Those last 2 episodes were the greatest episodes, in my opinion, of the entire series. This moment that I'm about to show you right here from the last episode, like, it was so epic, I got a full-on erection. Like, it was so great. It was when this moment happened right here. So a little update. I was just about to show a scene from the episode of the last episode, but then when I tried to upload it to YouTube, I got a copyright claim, which means I won't be able to monetize that video. So basically this is just me cutting that scene out. But the scene that I was going to show was when Alucard was fighting all the hordes and he was struggling. It looked like he was about to be defeated, but then Sypha and Trevor came out from the portal and helped him, and then they just had this epic badass fight with all 3 of them together. So, and the trio, you saw the trio together once again. So that was the scene that I was going to show, but whatever, YouTube, Netflix, copyright claims, it's trash because I'm a reviewer, so I should be allowed to show it, but whatever. I mean, I could dispute it, but that'd take a couple days and I'm going to be losing money. It's not like I'm making a whole lot of money, but still, I'm losing money, so I'm not even going to bother. Anyway, back to our regularly scheduled program. Like, that shit was so epic. Like, And it kind of made me sad because, like I said, I guess I'll talk spoilers from this. This mostly just for the end, but mostly made me sad because I'm like, this was the only time, and also considering this is the last season, this is the only time we really got to see Trevor, Cypher, and Alucard together again. Going on my little side tangent, it was also one of my big problems with the new Star Wars sequel trilogies. Like, we never got a moment with Han, Luke, and Leia finally together, especially with what happened with, they murdered Han. And then in the second movie, Luke died, and then you had the unfortunate passing of Carrie Fisher, which obviously they didn't know was going to happen behind the scenes. But just the fact that they knew they were going to kill Han and Luke in the first two movies, I wish there was a moment where you had the three of them together at least once. Like, I feel like episode 7 should have at least started with the three of them together. Then maybe they go their separate ways. But yeah, back on topic. So that fight was epic. And then, of course, you get to the very final fight with Trevor Belmont and Death. Oh my God. Like, Trevor Belmont is a beast. Like, constantly in, like, comic book circles, people always talk about, Batman with prep time, he could probably defeat God himself. No. Trevor Belmont, with some actual prep time, he could literally probably defeat God himself, because he defeated by himself. Cypher wasn't helping him, Alucard wasn't helping him. All he had was a magic whip, and he defeated like a 50-story giant skeletal monster of death. And watching this whole fight, again, I was just like, I need a video game. 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 So Konami, PlayStation, I need an announcement to come pretty soon. Because the last Castlevania game I played, Lord of the Shadows, I think that's what it was called. It was pretty damn epic. What was that, like 10 plus years ago? Like, again, give me another one. And then also PlayStation, I need a reboot of Soul Reaver. Like, what do you do? Like, I need it. Give it to me now. Speaking of video games. One thing I will say is, again, talking spoilers, but one thing I will say is I was not disappointed, but part of me kind of wished they didn't take back the fact that when Trevor was done with the battle of Death, you thought he was caught in the immense explosion which happened after Death died. But you find out that right before Saint Germain died, he sent Trevor's body into an alternate dimension. I can't remember what the dimension was called, but right before he was caught in that explosion. So that's how he was able to survive. And yeah, while I was glad to see that Trevor actually made it out, I was still just like, oh, I kind of wish they actually stuck with that consequence of this character perhaps dying, because, when there's war, especially war against magical creatures, you might die. But then also, I don't know, at the same time, it just goes to show that the fact that he made it out of that, granted, maybe it wasn't by his own power, but just the fact that he made it out just still kind of shows like how badass Trevor Belmont is, and some respect needs to be put on his name. Like, this man done fought Alucard. He could have killed Alucard. He fought Dracula, and he fought death itself and survived all of that. Also kind of wish, even though the show isn't really about him, the show is mostly about Trevor, I do wish we got to see a little bit more from Alucard in this season. And then not only that, they kind of are teasing that the woman and the leader of the village that he ended up meeting, they kind of tease that the two of them are gonna be lovers and she's his love interest. I kind of wish it was a guy, especially since we know from last season that Alucard is actually bisexual. So, and considering the lack of gay and LGBTQ characters in animation, I wish we got some more confirmation there, and Alucard giving that character some lovey-dovey eyes. It's not a complaint, it's just something that I wish happened. But yeah, I was here for all of this season, and then jumping to the end. Part of me was like, I wasn't surprised that Dracula came back, because that's a theme in the Castlevania games. Like, no matter what, no matter how many times you kill him, Dracula will always return. So I wasn't surprised at that. I was a little bit surprised that his mother, Alucard's mother, returned as well. And she was also so willing to forgive everything that Dracula did. Because based on the first season, I actually went back and rewatched those first 4 episodes before I recorded this. It kind of made it seem like she wouldn't have been okay with the level of death and destruction and the revenge that Dracula took upon the world had she known about it. But then you get to the end of this and she was like all still lovey-dovey and pretended like everything that Dracula did just didn't matter. And I don't know, I was just like, I feel like this character wouldn't have been as okay with that. But, I guess love, I don't know. But I was glad to see at least she got to come back to life, considering how much she suffered in that first episode. But just based on that fact that Alucard's parents have been resurrected, I would like to see a spinoff with Alucard, which, interestingly enough, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which is the one Castlevania game that didn't follow a Belmont as the lead. That was the first Castlevania game I ever played, and I freaking fell in love with that game, mostly because, you know, the magic and everything like that, and the main character that you were playing as was a vampire. So then I thought he was the lead and protagonist, and considering it's about fighting Dracula, and this is the son of Dracula, I thought he was the protagonist of all the Castlevania games. So when I played the other games and realized they were following a Belmont, I was a little disappointed, but I ended up loving those games as well. But anyway, for Castlevania Season 4, I would give it a straight up blockbuster. For the entire series of Castlevania, I'm going to give it a blockbuster. And yeah, like I said, I want to see an a la carte spinoff. But the question is, have you guys seen Castlevania Season 4? What did you think about it? What's your favorite season? I have to actually think about that. What's my favorite season? Because I have to go back and look at seasons 2 and 3. But those last 2 episodes, those are definitely my favorite moment. But what about you? Let me know down in the comment section below. Also, if you can, hit that thumbs up button again and like this video to really help out the channel. And if this is one of your first time checking out one of my videos, please check out the other videos on my channel. And if you like what you see, please subscribe for more and hit that bell notification button so you're alerted every single time I post a new video. And tell your friends, families, and neighbors about my channel to help me continue to grow. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.